Local programming on KRWG Public Media made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Fronteras, a changing America. I'm Jonny Coker. After weeks of discussion and debate, the Las Cruces City Council on Monday cast their votes for two ordinances that attempt to address public safety within the city. I have more in this report.
This is a motion to approve ordinance 3079. Councilor Clerk? Yes. Councilor Matisse?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
No.
Councilor Flores?
No.
Councilor Bencomo?
No.
Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passes.
The Las Cruces City Council chamber was packed on Monday amid votes for two contentious ordinances addressing solicitation and shopping carts within the city's limits. Among other provisions, the ordinances would impose penalties for individuals soliciting in the road or on narrow medians, and people in possession of shopping carts outside of a business's property. Penalties for each infraction include potential jail time and fines up to $500 per infraction, although advocates of the bill, including Las Cruces Police Chief Jeremy Story, point out that a judge could sentence a convicted person to substance abuse and mental health counseling. Dozens of community members and state legislators, business owners, and community organizations voiced an array of opinions to the City Council in a meeting that lasted nearly 7 hours. Ultimately, both ordinances passed in a 4-3 split vote. Mayor Eric Enriquez and Councilors Becky Graham, Cassie McClure, and Bill Matisse voted in favor of the ordinances, while Mayor Pro Tem Joanna Bencomo and Councilors Becky Coran and Yvonne Flores opposed. During the public commenting period and after the first vote, Democratic State Senator Carrie Hamblin spoke against the ordinances, saying she felt they didn't address serious crime and would only work to hide poverty within the city.
If there are communities and there are groups that are providing services to the unhoused, we need to continue to support them. If there are issues that the law enforcement can't address because we don't have enough resources to do that, then we need to provide those resources. That's where I feel our job is as a legislature. But when you start misrepresenting crime in the community and targeting the most vulnerable, then you're doing a disservice to the community, and you're not representing your constituents well enough and thoughtful enough and truthful enough.
Just as the council's vote was split, the public commenting periods were also representative of the community's disagreement of how best to deal with public safety and the city's unhoused population. Speaking after the meeting, current city councilor for the city's 2nd District, Bill Matisse, said he agreed with Police Chief Story's sentiment that more needs to be invested into housing and mental health programs, but that the ordinances are a step in the right direction.
If we could bring the cost of living down, and we could provide the food services, we could provide clothing services, shelters, I think we could probably take care of the unhoused numbers. My only worry is fiscal. Fiscal sustainability. How many hundreds or thousands of people can we actually take care of? So I think this is a good step to a lot of people that would come up to Las Cruces, that maybe, there is law and order. There are some challenges to actually stealing carts and breaking into stores. So now our small businesses are going to be protected, and at the same time, the unhoused will be helped. I think it's a win-win.
When speaking to the council, Chief Jeremy Story said that the LCPD would not begin fining or arresting individuals immediately, and instead said enforcement would be approached with tiered implementation.
Any effort to enforce this, should it pass, would be done in a tiered implementation, meaning there would be education first, there'd be an effort to plug people into services before taking enforcement action, and essentially we're trying to gain voluntary compliance first, and that's true for a number of things we already confront, number of criminal offenses we already confront.
As the city navigates these new regulations, the ongoing debate within the community and local government underscores a broader struggle to address the complexities of homelessness and public safety in Las Cruces. And now joining me to talk about those votes and other issues surrounding public safety is none other than the mayor of Las Cruces, Eric Enriquez. Mayor, thanks so much for coming on the program today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So just my first question, you came into office in January, and I would say it's been quite a demanding year for the city of Las Cruces in general, with the special legislative session, the death of Officer Jonah Hernandez, and these new ordinances that were passed on Monday. How have you adapted into your role, especially considering these difficult circumstances that have materialized this year?
Well, it hasn't been easy, as those things are hard on everyone. One other factor is we lost our city manager early on as well, so we had to hire a new city manager. Then we had the death of Officer Hernandez in the line of duty. Those are all troubling and hard on any individual. But what helps and what I can say helped me to get through is our community. Our community, our police department, our team rallied together and to overcome these issues. And I think that's a big part of it.
Definitely. And I want to get into the ordinance votes from Monday. I wanted to start with the shopping cart ordinance. Among other provisions, would make it illegal to be in possession of a shopping cart outside of that business's property. And you voted yes for that. So can you just lay it out why you voted yes for that ordinance?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one is I agree with Chief's story. My background is that of a firefighter, and then also I was police certified. I was an arson investigator. So I went through a police academy. I went through their training, and I understand what it's like when there's a lot of gray areas and you're dealing with ordinances and laws, and you're facing things in a gray area, and you need things black and white to be able to do your job as a police officer. And I can see where this helps them to do their job. It's already, for example, it's already a crime, whether they're in possession of something that doesn't belong to them. But again, a lot of times they could have acquired it because they found it. Whatever the case may be, it doesn't necessarily mean everybody with a shopping cart is a criminal, but then it puts an onus on the businesses to be responsible for their property. And it's just, again, the image that it sends in our community, and the individuals usually around this community with those with numerous shopping carts. There's something going on. We understand whether it's a mental issue or an addiction or something is going on, that's the way we can help them. That's the way we can get them off the street. So it's a combination of cleaning up, sending a signal to residents in this community that we care, but then also showing the individuals with these items that we care about them too, and we want to make sure we can get them the treatment and the help they need.
And you mentioned a part of that ordinance is putting some of the burden also on business owners to keep their carts secure and make sure that their carts are not left out in areas that they can just be picked up. What has the response been from those businesses? Have you heard any responses?
Yeah,
from
what I've heard about even police discussing with certain big chain box stores is they're all for it. They're all for it. They're already working on their plans. They agree. They know that it's dollars lost every time that one is gone or disappears. And a lot of times it's these businesses that have corporations, and the leaders of their corporations are, don't worry about it, it's okay. But in our community, even our local managers are saying, help us do something about it. So this is something where I believe they feel comfortable. What I've heard thus far is different stores, they say, no, we're in favor of this, because it puts the onus on us as well, but it tells our corporate leaders that here's an ordinance and we have to follow.
And in terms of this ordinance, well, both ordinances, we'll get to the solicitation ordinance in a second, but in terms of this shopping cart ordinance in particular, there was a lot of opposition, including within the city council and the public comments. How do you respond to the critics who may view these ordinances as punitive measures against vulnerable populations within our city?
How is police has to deal with it already. They're dealing with those calls all the time. People are calling and complaining and asking police to do something about it. So when you say that it's punitive, it's like we're already having to deal with it. So this is a way that we can deal with it, help some of the businesses to be held accountable as well, and help us all to make it a safer and better community so that police don't have to deal with these punitive issues, because once it's on the books and it's addressed and we see that it's cleared up and we start taking care of these individuals and we get them in the right place for treatment and help, then you'll see a different city. And that's the vision that I have and that I hope for, is that we'll see a different city, and what you'll see then is police can address the real issues, the real crimes that we're faced with in our community.
And so moving on to the solicitation ordinance, again, I just want to give you, why did you vote yes? Can you give us I'll just give you a platform to explain your vote.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things, again, public safety. It's public safety. We've heard the outcry by the community, not just business owners, but residents as well, of how unsafe they feel, how they don't allow their daughters to go out and shop, or their wives, or even individuals like males that just don't feel safe and say, I get harassed all the time, every time I go. But the other thing is, this community is so giving. We are such a giving community that it's really difficult not to find food, shelter, or clothing in this community. From our faith-based organizations to our nonprofit organizations, we have that already. So when we're out there allowing people to solicit, it's really focusing on their addictions, and we're enabling things to happen that aren't good for our community. And that's the way I look at it. And the other thing is the image that it sends to our youth, that this is allowable, this is okay. And if we want better, we have to do better.
And so for both of these ordinances, do you feel there should be measures put in place to address potential negative impacts on those vulnerable populations, such as homeless individuals and low-income individuals? I know Councilor Bencomo even threw out the idea of potentially lowering the fines, adding an amendment to lower the fines for at least the solicitation ordinance. Is that something that you would be in favor of?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We don't want this to be a burden on anyone. We want to get individuals help. If they need the help, if the people are repeat offenders and they constantly repeat, they need to be held accountable. If they're individuals that are out and need some kind of help or treatment, then I'm all for that, because those are things that they can't pay. It puts a burden on them, and then it becomes an uncollectible anyway for the courts. And it's just more of a burden to try to collect those fees and those fines, when it's like, you're not going to get the money anyway. They don't have it, so why do we impose that problem on them? So yes, I'm all for it. I mean, people do have to be held accountable, but there are some ways that we can look at not putting the onus on those that can't do anything about it.
And so how is the city going to measure the effectiveness of these ordinances over time? Is there a measurable outcome that you would like to see?
Well, absolutely. Police is really the number one avenue that we look at. We looked at MRVDA dispatch. We'll look at the call volume. We'll look at the number of calls. We'll look at police and the number of citations. We'll measure with the courts and the number of people that are going to treatment, the number of people that have been repeat offenders and are being held accountable. So we want all that to reduce. We'll see it in petty crime. We'll see it in call volumes. We'll see it in a number of ways. So we do have some statistics and data that police gather all the time, but we also have MRVDA, we also have the court systems that we can look at. And then we have to search. We have to search other ways. We can look at our neighborhood department for housing. We can look at things and seeing who's being housed and how they're being rehabilitated. So those are some other measures that we'll have to look into and take into account.
In terms of the solicitation ordinance, a big focus was traffic safety. I was wondering, how far do you think the city of Las Cruces has come in terms of talking about pedestrian-friendly infrastructure, in terms of making more bike lanes and easier walking paths for citizens throughout the city of Las Cruces? Do you think that conversation has been elevated, especially in light of these ordinances that are being discussed.
Yeah, so these discussions have been going on for several years. Complete streets have been adopted in an ordinance, and any new street that's developed is looking at bike lanes and walking paths. And so it's not only a safety component, it's a health component. So that's what we want. We want a healthy and vibrant community. So those are definitely issues, but to remove the safety issues, we have to do some things to eliminate some of these, not only pedestrian, but bicycle and traffic incidents. So I know our Public Works Department is always looking at that, looking at how we can re-engineer and do things. Department of Transportation with the state. I mean, a perfect example is Solano and Main Street. You know, that was a dangerous intersection that now they've widened and re-engineered and redeveloped, but it takes time and it takes money, but we have to start. We have to start somewhere, and I believe this ordinance is a good start to providing safety in our community, and then we move further with all the other resources that are needed.
And speaking of those other resources, and I know this is something that Chief Story even talked about, is the need for more resources into housing, into harm reduction type of programs. Is that something that you agree with and that you hope to push forward as mayor of Las Cruces?
Yes, absolutely. Anything that we can do, we have to. We're limited resources when it comes to funds and even when it comes to personnel. Being a police officer is not an easy job. Not only in Las Cruces, but in the state of New Mexico and on a national level. So recruitment and retention is always difficult. So we have to look at other avenues and other ways of community engagement, community involvement, safety measures. We've got the Real-Time Crime Center and other innovation coming in to help deter crime and to help our police department.
But do you hope, moving into the future, what kind of conversations do you hope to have with them and other NGOs in the area that do look to address issues surrounding the unhoused community and harm reduction and everything surrounding that? Like, how would you like that conversation to evolve with them?
Oh, the conversation is we are partners. This is not a police problem. This is a community problem. When we have people that are unhoused, when we have people that are hungry, when we have people that are without clothing, and without those resources, we all need to pitch in and help each other. Community of Hope does a very good job in that aspect. This ordinance is beyond their boundaries, and in order to make this ordinance work and to be successful, we all need to pitch in, and we need to help wherever the resources are lacking. So the conversation with them is if we truly are partners, we need to partner up, and we need to see where we can help each other out.
And post-vote, what kind of feedback have you received from business owners, from community members? Because I know it was a split crowd at the meeting. It was a split vote within the city council. So what kind of feedback have you received since these ordinances passed?
Most of the feedback is they're happy. They're happy for Chief Story and the police department, and also, a lot of thank yous for trying to make our city safer.
And you mentioned the Real-Time Crime Center earlier in terms of making the city safer. Where is the city in that investment? Where is the police department? How soon can we expect that to be fully operational?
Oh, that one I don't know all the specifics and the details. I know we were getting ahead of our fiscal year ends June 30th, so the money had been allocated, but I know Chief Story and Public Works and the rest of the city that's all part of this program. We're working on it before, but it takes time. So I don't know the exact details on where we're at, but it's moving. It's moving forward.
And in terms of fiscal year and funding to the city, I know there's $10 million coming from these opioid settlement funds to the city of Las Cruces. I don't have the information on exactly when that's going to get paid out or in what types of chunks, but would you agree that the money coming from those opioid settlement funds could be used to directly help individuals addicted to opiates who need harm reduction services, who may find themselves on the street. Is that something you would agree with?
Yeah, I think even the money is geared towards that. If not, we have to look at that. We have to be more specific and not just general with that type of funding and how it combats the problem that we have with that. I mean, that's why the money was allocated. It's not just go fix all your streets and roads and replace all the septic tanks, even though we'd like to do those things because we need them. But at the same time, I think that money was allocated for that. We've had already a joint session with the county to start the discussions on how we can work together to come up with a plan that's going to best suit it for those funds, which I believe should go back into rehabilitation and helping those individuals and then helping the community to prevent those things from happening again.
I see. And so just to move on a little bit, we only have a few minutes left, but I wanted to talk about your thoughts on the special legislative session. I know you went up to Santa Fe. What are your thoughts on everything that transpired over that time period, that short time period that the session was in session?
Well, there's a lot of mixed emotions and a lot of mixed feelings. May I stand behind the fact that we do need to really better our public safety, not only in Las Cruces, but throughout the state of New Mexico. So when the governor is asking for the same things that I believe in, then I have to support that. But just mixed emotions. Everybody has their opinions, and I understand the timeliness and maybe not ready, and there is another side to the story, and so I respect that. I respect anybody that's in an elected position. I'm learning firsthand. It's a lot easier, to voice it out from the audience than it is to handle it up in the dais when you're in the seat. So I respect our legislators and whatever their thoughts are, and also the governor. My only thing personally is I wish there would have been more discussion so that we're better prepared, but I hope that this was an eye-opener to say this is what's coming, in the coming year in 2025, and it's things that we can start working on and preparing for now. And I think, what we passed just here this week is a good way to say, use us as a pilot program, give us some resources, give us some funding so that we can say, like, these are some ordinances we passed, but we need some additional resources for those individuals that are out in the street, how we can help them. And if we had the resources and the funding for that, we could definitely be a pilot program for the whole state.
And so what legislation do you feel is most important in terms of making Las Cruces a safer city? I know you mentioned more allocation of resources would certainly help. We also, bail reform is a big topic of discussion, as well as competency when standing trial. So what do you think, what is most important for the city of Las Cruces?
I believe the competency is not only for Las Cruces, the whole state. I think that's something where we see the repeat offenders over and over. And so then we have to start looking at the resources, not only for mental providers, but the mental infrastructure that's needed, and I would say more for a long term, and looking for rehabilitation for those individuals on a long-term basis, and we're not set up for that. We're not prepared for that. But I think we have a lot of things going on in Las Cruces that can put us in a position that if we get those resources, we can do a lot to show the rest of the state that we can make our community safe and help those individuals that are needing the help.
I see. And Mayor, as my last question, what is your message to the folks who might be panhandling for survival, or who keep their belongings in shopping carts, who see that these ordinances passed and may have negative emotions toward them? What is your message to them?
The message is that we're here to be responsible for the city, for the safety of the 115,000 people that live here, and to hold you accountable on your possessions and where they're at. But they are your possessions, and we respect that. We respect you as well. We may have some Connex boxes and locations and be able to secure their items, but the key is to really find them a place to live, find them a place to have a good quality of life. And that's what I would say the message is to them, that like, yeah, this might seem like it's harsh, but trust us, it's in the best interest for everybody, and we want to help you as well.
Certainly will. Thank you so much, Mayor Eric Enriquez, for coming on the show today. I appreciate you taking the time out of the day for coming to talk with us.
Thank you, Jonathan.
That's all for today's episode. Remember, you can stay up to date on the latest local news at krwg.org. For all of us here at KRWG Public Media, I'm Jonny Coker, and we'll see you next time on Fronteras, A Changing America.